Hey human, welcome to the void once again. Come on in. Wanna watch a series? Here's your option of 25 streaming services. Already know which service you will be using of the 3 you're currently subscribed to? Netfilms, Amazing Video. Each has a wealth of options of thousands of different series so you don't get bored, ever. Wanna play a game? Which platform? Consoles? PC? Which console? Is my graphics card compatible? Which online market should I choose? I'm currently playing this RPG, but casually also playing this racing game while playing CS1 with my buddies. And which car should I get? This one has higher gas per mileage, but I like this Car of the People better because it's comfier. Ooh, this one has heated seats though. I guess by now you get where I'm going with this. I'm one of those people that has lived in the middle as far as technology and certain conveniences go. I'm a 30-something millennial, so I still remember using cassettes and going to buy CDs to a music store, but I also remember the rise of the MP3 player and then eventually the massive popularity of smartphones. I remember not owning a cell phone. I remember landline phones and having to arrange a meetup with friends to hang out. I remember pay phones, remember those? And at the same time, those times seem long gone now. By now you can probably guess what I'm talking about, the paradox of choice. Today, more than ever possible in human history, we have an immense number of choices, whether it's for food, clothes, careers, for our entertainment, and even the people we want to date. The digital age has brought with it an immeasurable quantity of great things to the modern world, but is it all good? The logical thing that most people will say here, including myself most of the time, are of course it's good. Our lives are easier and it's always great to have more choice. And I agree without thinking much about it, but if you think a little deeper though, don't we have too much choice? Isn't too much of a good thing a thing? Don't we all get overwhelmed sometimes by just the choices of entertainment and information nowadays, let alone everything else? Every time we make a choice, a new, better option becomes available and then the anxiety starts. It almost seems like we are constantly wasting more and more time choosing than actually enjoying what we're already chosen before, and for the most part, we seem rather unhappy and unfulfilled. And when we do make a choice, we usually wonder what the other choices would have been like, not quite living the present, so to speak, and rarely actually enjoying it. A lot of the time in our lives, we choose quantity over quality, in our entertainment, our life choices, and even our relationships. According to American psychologist Barry Schwartz, on his book The Paradox of Choice, Why More is Less, and I swear I came up with the title of this video for doing research on this book, having infinite choices can be extremely overwhelming. He concludes that the current abundance of choice often leads to depression and feelings of loneliness. We don't think about the choice that we're about to make because we're already overwhelmed by the notion of having to choose and having to choose now. Schwartz uses different psychological models for happiness to show how the problem of choice can be addressed using different strategies, such as freedom of choice, which stands to lead people to feel powerless and frustrated because choosing one of the options among many others means giving up the rest of the hypothetically superior opportunities. This, of course, also ties into the phenomenon known as FOMO, otherwise known as the fear of missing out. This being one of the main causes for many people, especially in the last 30 years or so, for massive anxiety. The fear of missing out is a type of social anxiety which will usually make the person suffering it feel that others are having fun or having new experiences while the person is not currently present. The prevalent use of social networks creates many more opportunities for this phenomenon to happen, especially since the use of social networks is increased the younger a person is, making most so-called millennials such as myself and all younger generations prone to being very anxious people. There are many studies that exhibit how we usually employ emotions, more specifically what is called affective feelings, when making decisions, instead of the more thought out and relatively objective cognitive feelings. The main difference between these two is that affective feelings are based on our current mood and subjective feelings on a given day, and might not always take into account all the objective information that is available to us, such as that which comes from long-term memory retrieval and allows us to compare past experiences with our current one. Now, one very common affective feeling that forces us to make a decision against our better judgment is fear. Fear is one of the marketing tools that is used the most today. It's very commonly used to guilt trip you to either buy a product, watch something, or, well, remember that you can buy something with money or buy into something, such as an idea. Fear also plays a role there. This is no secret, in fact, it's very public, and what better way to show this than to go to the website of an actual marketing agency. Here's a few examples. Like, have you ever wondered if you can scare your customers into buying your product? It's a very valid question because fear-based marketing works. It can help collect high-quality sales leads. Fear can actually trigger your target audience to take action and buy your product or service. And let's go a little further. Leah Dunn of British Columbia's Sauder School of Business found that people who feel afraid or alone experience an unusually high attachment to the brands closest to them. She elaborates on this by explaining that consumers remember the brands and products they meet while fearful in a favorable way. According to Dunn, this happens because when people are fearful, they seek out human connections. If there are no humans nearby, a brand will perfectly fill the gap. This means that brands have an opportunity to create emotional attachments to people when fear is in play. Fear-based marketing works because consumers are generally afraid of missing out on something. When you add in an expiration date to an offer, letting consumers know that there's an impending deadline will help facilitate sales. Dates and other fear taxes will make consumers take actions that benefit your business. I don't know about you, but this seems rather grim to me. We are constantly guilt-tripped and manipulated in modern consumer society to make choices and make them now. A lot of the time based on fear, especially the already mentioned fear of missing out. We don't seem to ponder long enough all the choices we have to make, even if they end up being detrimental to our well-being. This creates a constant feeling that we are not living the best version of our lives or that we made the best possible choices for ourselves, because the grass is always greener on the other side. Now, let's use a very simple example. Imagine having to choose which series you want to watch in your favorite streaming platform. You probably had 20 different ones added to your watch list that you want to get to at some point, but you feel you will probably miss out on something else. So when you are actually watching something, you're already wondering what the other series might be about, and you end up not really enjoying the one you're currently watching. Same can be said with video games and other forms of entertainment, but it can also be said about careers. You probably like many different fields and feel you could potentially be good at a few of them, but which of these careers will provide you with the maximum amount of satisfaction, be it financial, intellectual, or even spiritual? Which one will feel less like a job and more like something you would like to do or at least tolerate? What if you made the wrong choice? And for those of you living in countries where you have to pay for college, what if you now have a large student debt for a career that you realize you probably didn't want? According to French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, pardon my butchered French, man is condemned to be free because once thrown into the world, he is responsible for everything he does. Sartre implied that because of this overwhelming freedom of choice, humans live in a state of constant anguish. Are we all just trapped in this human void that must be filled constantly with choices to feel temporarily happy and fulfilled? Are we all destined to make choices that we didn't think through because of society's constant pressure to move forward? Is there any way you can try to minimize this type of existential dread in your everyday life? Many people own large collections of books, films, video games, and comics, and many eventually come to the realization that they haven't really enjoyed the one thing deeply enough to extract enough satisfaction from it, leaving them once again with this frustration, anguish, and fear of missing out on yet another possibly great book about the same subject but a different point of view, that other series which also looked awesome, that career which could have provided them with more personal fulfillment instead of financial gain, or maybe the opposite. Now, don't get me wrong, having choices is always better than having none, but is there possibly a limit to what humans can handle? Have we long surpassed this limit? And is there any way to balance this in the future? The hypothetical scenarios are seemingly endless. So are we really in control of our own lives? Can we at least mitigate our own anguish? In the wise words of Napalm Death, you suffer, but why? Man, that got pretty dark really quickly, so here's a cute cat. Enjoy.